I'm going to go over some practical areas of content development and WordPress content management system development. Before we start, you should have recently reviewed the Developing Good Content video on the Jayne Design website. Also, the WordPress tutorial series, there are 4 of them, and the custom WordPress menus. And if you haven't looked at those recently, I would suggest you do so before you watch this one. We're going to cover 4 topics today. We're going to cover the menu development, the content in practice, and also internal linking, and finally widgets. You should have at least 2 browsers downloaded and installed before you work on any content management system work. So you can have Safari and Firefox, or Explorer and Firefox, and I'm really a big fan of Chrome, so whenever you get the opportunity, I would make sure you have that on board. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside for now down here, and we're going to be working today on a website called Select Electric, and we are going to be wrapping up some final details in terms of content development. And so what I like to do is I like to have several windows open, and sometimes that's confusing. If it is confusing for you, you just want to have 1 or 2 open. But especially since we'll be working with the menu, I like to have this menu item open, this window open, and also in Firefox I like to also have the posts open, because we're going to be borrowing the links from the posts and placing them over here in the menu. So it's good to have 2 open. And then we've got the front end, so when we're done, we can hit refresh and see what we've got to work with. Going to make that a little smaller so it fits. So the first thing I'd like to do is work on these service areas, and for most websites this is an important element because this has to do with your content. So this allows us the ability to develop good content, and remembering that content is king with visibility, we like to be able to develop these areas. So if we look, for instance, at electrical repairs, which is already in here in the menu, we can see that we have something that needs to be cleaned up over here to begin with, but we can see that we do have some very deliberate content in here. Electrical repairs, electrical wiring, electrical upgrades, and every chance we got, we inserted the word electrical. As long as it's not too ridiculous, we try to make sure that that is something that we include in here. Also, we have some bullet points in here, and we use those as well. Now, if this were on another page, what I would like to do is also do some internal linking. So let's say we had the word electrical repairs on another page, and the user was browsing through here. We want to have these internal links. So we would take this here while we were on the other, once we were on the page, that would allow us to edit it. And I'm just going to go over here and copy this link because we are in fact on electrical upgrades. And we would take this and we would want an internal link. So we're just going to paste that in there. And so that would be what's called internal linking. And while in this particular case we're linking to the same page, that's an example of how we would do that. Okay, make sure to update, and we would go through to all the relevant data and make sure that we update it appropriately. Now what that does is that tells Google and other browsers that it secures the idea that this is what this website is about. Clearly, if you have something that says electrical and it's linked to another content page, that's what your website is about. Google, for instance, is really sort of geared to decode the BS, if you will. So if someone's trying to become ranked for something that is not what their website is truly about, then they're probably not going to have internal links that have relevant content. So so just make sure that you give Google every opportunity to understand what you're about, and this is one way to do it. Now, doing this kind of work is very tedious, but it's very important. We've got electrical repairs. We would do some internal linking in there as well. Okay, most of you also have this SEO installed here, so we do like to give it a good SEO title, and we have one here. But I'm going to make sure that we use the SEO title that we want, and I'm going to include Select Electric here at the end as well. Go ahead and update that. Additionally, you would want to use maybe some meta description in here. So the description is actually more of a sentence based, so you can use 1 or 2 sentences focusing on the words that are relevant to this particular page, not necessarily to the website as a whole, but relevant to this page that's very specific. Okay, so if we go over to our notes. That was some of our content in practice and our internal linking. So let's look at the menu development. I'd like to continue with this and make sure that all of the service areas are developed. So under the service areas, we've got electrical repairs and smoke detectors, but we actually have several more than just those two. So I'm going to go over here to all posts, and it looks like we don't have outlets and switches there yet. So we're going to go to outlets and switches. And we can either get a short link, but I think the preferred method really is to view this post. And that way we get all the relevant keywords in there. Copy that. Go over here to menus. In this case, I'm going to add a custom link, paste it in there, call it outlets. Switches. Now, this is going to be a sub link. So in other words, it's going to be nested down here. If it's a top level link, I want to keep it nice and short. But if it's got this secondary link, then we have a little more leeway to make the links longer. So I've got outlets and switches. I'm going to nest it under services. Make sure that it's not a subcategory of smoke detectors. There we go. And save that menu. So we're going to go on from there, and just to give you an overview, and I think that the other video probably covered it well, if we have a particular blog post we want to post to, like this one here, this is a single post, we're going to use a custom link. If we have a page we're going to link to, we would use this here. And then if we have a category of posts, we would do something like, let's see, services is doing that for us. So for instance, if we were to take a look at all of our blog posts that are categorized as services, they would be listed here. So, and then if we hover on that, that gives us just all the posts that we have designated in the category services. So that's how WordPress actually allows us a lot of flexibility in terms of organizing our data. So for instance, the about and staff, those two are probably also categorized as a category named about. So when I went over here and I said, well, I want a category, and that is about, then everything, and also I listed this individually, but that is in fact our navigation level, and I used the category to do that. Okay, so next we have widgets, and widgets are a really highly functional part of WordPress content management systems, and they're all the fun little stuff that happened around the exterior and under here, for instance. So in this particular theme, we have these three elements directly underneath the header. We have this homepage sidebar, and then we have the bottom three, and then we even have more under here. So if we go over here to our menu and hover over widgets or click on widgets, we have all these great little elements that are optional here. So if we look at a side by side, we can see what's going on. And it can be a little bit tricky, so you have to be very careful. You're not going to mess anything up, but you just have to sort of decode this. It's a fun part about content management systems. They're like puzzles. So here's all of our different options to include over here in the sidebar, and they're so fun because they just drag and drop in there. I'll bring that one back. So for instance, under electrical services, you'll see we have, this is our content area 1, 2, and 3. So electrical service, electrical maintenance, and consumer tips. So what we did is we drug from over here on the left-hand side this item that's called the ET Recent From. So it's bringing over the most recent blog posts that we have categorized in this case as services. And I selected from the number of categories that we already have installed. And I've decided that there should be 5, but we can change that to 7 if there were 7 items. Save that. Close it. And then again, we don't have 7, but that would be listed over here as 7 different items. This is our content area 2. We decided it should be electrical maintenance, and we've categorized the blog posts accordingly. And then the last one, consumer tips, right here. So if we go on further, over here we've got the locations. Now this is our sidebar. And so if I close up areas 1, 2, and 3, we'll see we've got the sidebar. Now we have 2 items, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. We've got the sidebar, which is actually the internal link sidebar. It doesn't say that, but that's what's happening. If I were to click, for instance, on any one of these links to get me to the interior, in other words, past the home page, I would see what's in fact this sidebar here. And on this sidebar here, we've got the areas that we service, and then the videos. Again, ignoring this deal here, which is happening, I think, because we are logged into the back end on Firefox. Okay, so if we were to close this here, we would, I'm going to go back over here to the home page, and let's take a look at what the home page sidebar has. Scroll down here, which is the locations. So we check over here, just the locations. So it's recent posts from locations category. Across the bottom, this has the home page bottom area 1, 2, and 3. And so we'll see here, we've got things that are popular this week. So this content management system is able to determine which items are more recently viewed. Now we're in the development stage of this. So as you can see, it's just sort of random, the items that we've been working on. We've got the video library, and we've got the WordBooker Facebook status. How fun is that? And this actually draws your recent Facebook status and brings it in. You do have to make sure that your WordBooker is set up, though, and there are instructions on my website for that as well. And then finally, we have the footer. We're skipping over this leaderboard and things, which also can be utilized, but these are more common. I've got some footer, some navigation options. One are our most recent blog posts. Electrical maintenance, that's a category, and then I've even brought over our navigation. So all those were just drug from this main widget area over here and dropped accordingly. So you can kind of play with those widgets and see what they yield and make sure they work for you. Okay, so that's really all the areas that I intended to cover in this video. I hope it wasn't too much, but I do appreciate you watching. Thank you.